Tonight, voters cast their ballots in two Toronto by-elections. They are the first federal by-elections of the pandemic. We'll have the results from the ridings of Toronto Centre and York Centre. Plus,
he was on the ground and the blood is already there. And he's a help.
One man fatally shot, another arrested after a dispute possibly over social distancing at an LCBO. And
Halton has been sort of on the edge for a period of time.
despite that, the region won't be returning to stage 2. Could pushback from local leaders have influenced the decision? Good evening, I'm Kelda Yoon. Toronto voters casting ballots in two by-elections today in the ridings of Toronto Centre and York Centre. These are the first federal by-elections of the pandemic. Polls closed 2.5 hours ago. Let's begin in Toronto Centre. That is where we find our Lorenda Redekop. Now, Lorenda, this riding has long been a Liberal stronghold, and tonight CBC is projecting Liberal candidate Marcy Ian as the winner.
In her campaign office, she is going to be coming out to speak soon. This was a race that, as we watched those votes coming in, it was very close at times. In the end, though, most recently, and some of the votes are still being counted, but she is ahead by more than 1,500 votes at this time. What we're seeing, though, is only around 20% of voters actually marked a ballot. And this is a riding that was held by Bill Morneau. He resigned following that controversy over We. This is a seat that's been Liberal for 27 years, and now it looks like it will be Liberal for at least a little longer. We did also hear from Annamie Paul, the Green Party leader. She spoke just a little while ago. Let's take a listen to her.
In 2013, we had almost 38% of people voting in the by-election, and I'm not even sure we're going to get 20% tonight. Okay, so that is a very sobering thought, and that is the true referendum. The referendum is, should the Liberal government have done this opportunistic and cynical thing by calling an election, or should they have waited until it's safe? And I think that we're learning a little bit about it minute by minute.
Now, the NDP candidate who came in second the last time, ahead of Annamie Paul, who was in fourth the last time, he has taken third place, it appears. We are still waiting to see Marcy Ian. She is not back just yet. And I want to talk about the other riding. We still don't know the results there for York Centre. It's very close. It's been switching back and forth a bit throughout the night, though it appears that last I checked, it was Yahara Sachs for the Liberals who was in the lead ahead of the Conservative Julius Tiengson. And the interesting thing there in that riding as well, Kelda, is that the People's Party, Maxime Bernier, I'm sure people will be talking about vote splitting there because it's such a close, actually I'm seeing that it appears that the Conservatives are now in the lead, and right now it looks like it's just 5 votes, but then Maxime Bernier, we see that he has 475 at this point. Kelda?
Lorenda, thank you so much. So York Centre still waiting for the results there. A close one. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Well, now to a deadly confrontation that may have begun as a dispute over social distancing. One man is dead and another arrested after a shooting yesterday outside an East End LCBO. Police say an argument started in the store and spilled into the parking lot where the shooting happened. As Greg Ross reports, there is speculation the argument was about social distancing, though police would not confirm that tonight.
I heard like a bang.
Wilayat Khan was in his house directly next door to the LCBO when he heard a single gunshot just before 5:30 yesterday evening. He ran out to see what was happening and found a young man laying near the entrance to the LCBO parking lot.
He was bleeding and, just in the driveway, he was crying and helping. The police came here like 2 minutes, there was lots of car and ambulance come a little late, but it was so bloody there.
The man pleading for help was 21-year-old Jakub Sudamaricki. He later died in hospital. Police say he was shot after an argument with another man inside the LCBO.
The victim exits the store, and then within a few seconds, the suspect exits the store, and there's a chase within the parking lot.
Police have charged 20-year-old Michael Roberts of Toronto with first-degree murder. He was arrested just minutes after the shooting.
The suspect fled the scene in a vehicle, and a civilian witness passed the license plate of the vehicle onto police through a 911 call. Responding officers located the vehicle within 8 minutes of the shooting and less than 2 kilometers away from the scene.
Today, police towed this car from the parking lot, but did not say how it's connected to the shooting. According to police, Sudamaricki and Roberts did not know each other before their altercation in the store. And police had this to say when asked about speculation that the dispute was over social distancing.
The investigation is ongoing, so I'm not going to comment on whether or not social distancing was involved.
Police say when they arrested Roberts, there were 2 other people in the vehicle with him at the time. Neither of those people are facing charges right now. Police also say that they found a knife here at the scene shortly after the shooting, but they're still investigating how that knife may have been connected to this altercation. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario reporting 851 new cases of COVID-19 today. The province hitting its highest 7-day average since the pandemic began. Meanwhile, the government is defending its decision not to impose tighter restrictions on Halton region, despite the rising case numbers there. Mike Crawley has the latest.
A gray day with grim new numbers of COVID-19 cases. If you thought the second wave was plateauing in this province, think again. In the past month, Ontario's average number of new cases daily has doubled. The number of patients with COVID-19 in hospital and intensive care have nearly tripled, and more than 150 people infected with the virus have died. This despite 2 weeks with a ban on drinking and dining indoors at bars and restaurants in the virus hotspots, what Ontario calls modified stage 2.
We are also starting to see some of the numbers go down in some of the modified areas, but because of the impacts of Thanksgiving, we're not seeing that happen quite as quickly as we'd like to.
Infections have been on the rise outside those areas too, including here in Halton region, something that concerned the Premier on Friday.
We see a little escalation in the cases, and we'll be able to discuss that on Monday and give you a clear answer.
That answer? No new restrictions on Halton. This comes after 2 of Ford's own MPPs wrote to the province's top doctor, arguing against modified stage 2 restrictions. Ford denies it tipped the balance.
Well, we don't base it on letters, so that wouldn't play a factor.
So far, we've made no recommendation to our minister and all up into cabinet yet on what to deal with any changes with Halton or other health units.
Halton has been sort of on the edge for a period of time, but any decision that will be made will be based on the medical evidence.
Meanwhile, the government announced that its budget, deferred by the pandemic, will come Thursday of next week.
What we don't want to see is Mr. Ford's austerity. He was cutting before COVID hit. We all know that.
I just don't believe in taxes or increasing taxes as a solution to our problems.
This budget is coming at an unusual time. We're more than halfway through the fiscal year already, and the pandemic's impact on spending and revenues means the government is looking at tabling a historic deficit in the range of $40 billion. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Toronto.
Ontario's health minister said today Thanksgiving is partly to blame for the surge in COVID-19 numbers. And images of large gatherings are continuing to pop up on social media, despite warnings from health officials. Chris Glover has more.
Cheers. Cheers. Don't blame these people. This is archival footage, but health officials are blaming Thanksgiving for Ontario's current COVID surge. 3 households mixed for Thanksgiving at a home in Vaughan. At least 1 person went despite mild symptoms. Now 16 people, including 3 infants, are believed infected and many more exposed.
Every time we socialize with anyone beyond our immediate household, there's a risk that we enter into. And this particular cluster illustrates that sort of a risk.
Nearly 100 people, many without masks, congregated outside a Toronto church after a wedding Saturday. The woman who took this photo fears backlash from the church community.
It was necessary for someone to know about it because it was wrong. It was going against everything that we're being asked to do right now. And it gives the impression what they're doing matters more than keeping the rest of the people safe.
But other than the lack of masks, was it wrong? Religious services like weddings, even in hotspots like Toronto, are exempt from normal gathering rules, so long as the venue is at less than 30% capacity.
I think we have to take another look at those regulations. And, it was once said to me by somebody in the provincial government that you don't want to mess with the brides of Ontario or of Toronto, and that's a fair statement, or the grooms. But the fact is that, any large gathering, no matter how careful you are, has a certain risk associated with it.
Niagara West PC MPP Sam Oosterhoff is under fire for posing in this photo over the weekend. Since his area is not in a modified Stage 2, the large indoor group is allowed, but still they should be wearing masks, and they are not.
I think it was shocking. I think it was inappropriate. And I think that there definitely needs to be consequences for Mr. Oosterhoff.
Oosterhoff has apologized, but he's the parliamentary assistant to the education minister. And while the head of the Ontario Hospital Association says he should resign, the premier says no.
I have 100% confidence in Sam. He does a great job representing his area. People love him out there. And he came out and apologized. Hey, guys, everyone makes mistakes.
Now that officials say so many Ontarians made mistakes at Thanksgiving, health officials hope we've learned the hard way. Chris Glover, CBC News, Toronto.
We're hearing from the Whitby woman who was brutally assaulted while out for an evening walk back in the summer. 50-year-old Kimberly Black was reported missing the night of July 28th. She wasn't found until the next morning. She suffered life-threatening injuries and was in the hospital for months. A GoFundMe page was set up to support her, and today she thanked everyone who contributed.
I was absolutely shocked and blown away by the love and support that thousands of you, not just hundreds, but thousands of you have shown. I guess what I could say is I'm doing really well.
Black says she's healing and she still goes for daily walks with her husband. A 21-year-old man has been arrested for the assault and is facing attempted murder charges. The premier weighing in today on more violence this past weekend at the scene of an ongoing protest over a housing development in Caledonia.
Don't attack our police officers. There's one country, one law, one rule. You follow the law. Simple as that.
Ford was commenting on this video, which was posted yesterday by the OPP. It shows members of the 1492 Land Back Lane group attacking a cruiser while officers were inside the vehicle. The group claims police are using the video to build anti-Indigenous sentiment.
It's really despicable content that you show a 1-minute clip out of context, that was just following rubber bullets being fired at people, a guy getting tasered, and to show a 1-minute clip of our guys, I think it's somewhat typical of what the OPP's response has been to dealing with people of color, like across the board. I think we've established ourselves as a peaceful presence here, and we're going to continue that.
The protesters have been blocking the housing development since July, claiming it is on unceded Indigenous land. Last week, a judge granted an injunction against the protesters. The Toronto's Firefighters Association is warning of major staff shortages on the front lines, with dozens of vacancies and 1 in every 10 fire trucks sitting idle in the city.
We want to make sure here is an education campaign that City Hall's aware of it. They're going to make some decisions because of financial pressures, and they're looking at the fire service, what's on paper, not what's on reality. We still are meeting our performance, but we can't handle larger emergencies as well as we could if all the vehicles were in service.
The association commissioned a report looking at the shortage. It says the city must hire more than 200 firefighters to meet minimum staffing requirements. Delays to replace retiring firefighters and a failure to plan for safe staffing are being blamed for this shortage. The city's fire chief commented on the numbers at today's COVID-19 briefing.
To be very candid, what concerns me most is the acknowledgement and the the assessment, if you will, by the actuarial firm with respect to the rise and the increase in unplanned absences. The overwhelming, in fact, the majority of those WSIB absences are as a result of things like post-traumatic stress and other occupational stress injuries.
Peg maintains the city provides world-class fire protection services. He says a number of reviews looking at fire deployment were paused because of the pandemic, but they are now back up and running. He adds the outcomes of those reviews will help him make future recommendations to City Council.
We've got some showers on the way for Tuesday. I'm meteorologist Colette Kennedy. Let me give you the timing on this and also when we're going to see a warm-up. That's coming after the break.
Back to our top story now. Toronto voters cast ballots in 2 by-elections today in the ridings of Toronto Centre and York Centre. Now, these are the first federal by-elections of this pandemic. In Toronto Centre, CBC is projecting Liberal candidate Marcy Ian as the winner, and she just spoke. Here is a bit of what she had to say.
It's a little bit surreal. I was a journalist, a talk show host some 5-6 weeks ago, and now I have the honor of representing Toronto Centre. And I'll tell you, what a campaign. But you don't do something like this without an amazing team. This team has been the light of my life in these weeks. They have stood up, they have shown me, they have led me down the right path. They've been beside me for everything. And the volunteers that came out to contact and connect with people during a pandemic, it was hard to do. The phone calls that were made, the virtual calls that were made, the physically distanced meetings in the street. It has been unbelievable. But I have to say this, the people of Toronto Centre have given me a mandate. There's a lot that they want. There's a lot they're looking for. They were honest. The conversations were amazing. And I have to say to the young people, and I met a lot of them through these weeks, who said, we don't see ourselves, who said there are goals, but we're not sure we're going to get there. I want to tell all of them to a person, I will not leave them behind. You're looking at the daughter of immigrants who landed in St. Jamestown in the late 60s, hoping to give their kids a chance. And here I stand. And if I can stand here, so can they. They will not be left behind. So thank you. It's time to get down to work. Let's go, Toronto Centre. Let's go. Oh my gosh, getting sworn in?
Well, it was a cloudy evening tonight with that crisp fall chill in the air. Definitely jacket weather tonight. Colette Kennedy joins us now with the full forecast. Colette, the sun didn't make much of an appearance today.
Thanks, Kelda. Well, it was a little bit of a gray Monday. Temperatures running a bit on the cool side, too. And we've got a couple of days where we're going to be, this kind of a pattern is what we're going to be seeing here. So mostly we just have the cloud cover then tonight. I say mostly, a few areas I know you've got a little bit of wet weather, but primarily we deal with the clouds tonight, overnight, and tomorrow morning. And then it's a different scenario as we go towards the afternoon hours and into the afternoon as the next system arrives and brings in some wet weather. But for midweek, we get to see two things happening. One is that our temperatures rebound back towards seasonal, but the other is that we're assured of some sunshine, a good dose of it through the day. So that will be a nice reward as we get towards midweek there, towards hump day. Now, daytime highs today in general, we were talking about those readings being about 4 to 5 degrees below seasonal, and then there's Ottawa. And, again, tonight we've got some flurries actually in the forecast as temperatures fall off there. So definitely the cool spot with 3 degrees this afternoon. So yeah, the one system departing, a lot of that cloud cover hanging in. You can see some of the cloud deck being carved out there into eastern Ontario, at least briefly. Tomorrow morning starting off with some clouds, but there'll be some sunny breaks in there as well. So kind of take advantage of that where you see it. But into the afternoon, we see this kind of filling back in with at least some scattered showers. In some areas, it'll be a little bit more intense. And then that kind of heals off as we get towards the evening hours. We start to see a clearing trend setting up again. So that's as we go towards tomorrow night. And that's really the setup then, a cool night tomorrow night, but the setup as we go into Wednesday and why we're going to be treated to some sunshine, especially back towards southwestern Ontario. The sun will be mixed at times with some cloud cover towards the Golden Horseshoe, and certainly up into cottage country we'll be seeing that as well. But still, it is going to be nice towards midweek. And again, the more important thing is that we see those temperatures rebounding. It just doesn't happen in time for tomorrow. So overnight tonight, 2 degrees in southwestern Ontario for your lows. And tomorrow afternoon, a bit of a struggle. All right, I admit it, with those winds coming in from the west, those temperatures running a good 5 degrees below seasonal there. Overnight tonight, some of those readings, mark them, getting very close to freezing in terms of what we're seeing. And tomorrow afternoon as things fill in. And yes, could be, especially to the higher elevations, a few little flurries or a bit of mix at times here, but not for the city. We're talking about just the precipitation coming as showers in terms of the temperatures we'll be seeing. Towards Wednesday, we get to that 11 degrees. Thursday, late day, the next system comes in. A very chilly night Thursday night into Friday, and not a terribly warm day Friday as well. Saturday for Halloween, talking about some sunshine, which is nice. Dry conditions we'll be seeing, and the high about 8 degrees as well. Kelda.
All right, thanks so much, Colette.
The weather is brought to you by Trane, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. We test, so it runs. It's hard to stop a train.
I'm Ismaila Alpha, host of Metro Morning. Well, as we close in on the U.S. election, polls are showing Democrat Joe Biden well out in front of President Donald Trump. But it's not the first time we've heard that type of a situation. You may remember back in 2016, polls didn't really give Donald Trump any chance at the presidency, and we know how that turned out. Well, there was one pollster who did predict a Trump win. And on tomorrow's program, we'll hear from him and find out how he thinks things will pan out this time around. Join me weekdays 5:30 till 8:30 for Metro Morning on CBC Radio 1.
Our closest celestial neighbor appears to be hiding a precious secret in plain sight. NASA scientists say the moon may have a lot more frozen water than previously suspected. Earlier studies have already revealed a large quantities of ice inside permanent shadows of craters close to the poles. But for the first time, water molecules have been detected in sunlit parts of the moon's southern hemisphere. The space agency used a powerful telescope attached to a modified Boeing jetliner to make this exciting discovery. The flying observatory called SOFIA offers astronomers a new way to look at the solar system without atmospheric interference. Water found in more locations could expand options for future space missions and even potential lunar bases. It's believed that most of the water may have been deposited on the moon by comets and asteroids. Very cool. That's our show for you tonight. Thank you so much for watching. Dwight Drummond has your next local newscast tomorrow at 6, and I will see you back here tomorrow night at 11. Have a great night, everyone.